Hello. I am making this video because I've been thinking about aloneness. And I've been thinking about the place that being alone has in my life. When I was younger, I was really afraid of being alone. I was afraid of everybody leaving me, and I would stay in situations with people who were unkind to me. And I would stay because I didn't want them to leave me. I gotta take this. That was someone calling me for counsel, which kind of shows how far I've come in my journey, I suppose. Because when I was younger and I would accept the unkindness of other people, I would also cast them in this godlike role where I would be asking advice from everybody in my life about how to live my life. And there was such an emphasis I placed on self abandonment. For me, love always meant surrender. It meant doing difficult things. It meant showing up for another person in ways that is difficult. It wouldn't be until much later that I would really understand how the impulse of love is different from the practice of love. I don't think I developed the idea of love being a practice that much at that stage from other people. In my eyes, I wanted to be a good practitioner of love, and there were, of course, limits to this. I don't think everybody who I loved in my life I treated the same way, but I do think that with friends, with people I had a crush on, I did have a tendency to try and be a good practitioner of love and to show them what I had to offer through my humor, through my patience, through my understanding. I was sort of giving to people a lot of what I was not receiving from them. I don't think that love is a transaction in that way, whereby you only give in the hopes of receiving. I don't think anybody really gets poor through giving. But I think that all that love that I was giving to other people, I was not giving to myself. And I was really afraid of being alone. When I got older and I had more life experiences and I was forced to be alone because of my sister moving away or breaking up with my boyfriend, I suddenly found myself in a situation where for the first time I was alone. And it was terrifying. I would find myself being in a room feeling genuinely terrified. And even in this state, I started clinging towards the ways that I've dealt with things in the past. I tried to talk to friends, I tried to open up, tried to get back those people, talk a lot to my sister, try and get back with my boyfriend, make things work, show up for love. Show up for love in heroic ways by taking leaps of faith. And I think that those impulses of heroism and of engagement and reflection, those are noble impulses. But I think I was putting them too much in the direction of others instead of towards myself. I think the leap of faith I needed to take back then was take a leap of faith in myself and choose myself in many ways. So, with that context in mind, I find myself now in a situation in life where I'm still independent. I think it would take, once you've learned how to be independent and to self regulate and to value your own company and yourself, it's also a bit hard to unlearn that. But I've also experienced a period of time in between when I got an offer from university and I really lost myself because I found myself really like going off to university and at the detriment of myself, of my physical and mental health. The most important thing was securing that university offer, and ultimately it didn't work out for me. And keeping that in mind, I'm now at a place in university where I find myself holding on to that identity that I carved for myself, where I still value myself and I see the self as a project and I see that there are different like parts of me that are so cool and should be nourished, and all of those things exist. That structure is there, even if it's not as vibrant or full as it once was a few years ago. But at the same time, I find myself still reverting to a lot of regressive things I thought I totally like recovered from and unlearned completely. Things like the idea of love being a renunciation, for instance. I find myself thinking about that often. I think it's also because since coming to university, I've sort of jumped from relationship to relationship. There have been 2 guys so far. I'm on the second one right now. And I find that I am feeling myself enter a space of anxiety that I always enter in romantic relationships. I can't recall a single romantic relationship I've been in where this hasn't been the case. I do think that there have been situations where someone has shown me that they're deeply sort of preoccupied with their infatuation with me, but I haven't felt the sort of depth and connection that I think I want to start accepting in other people. I think I've been settling too much, is the thing. I find myself feeling like the kind of connections I want to form with other people are just not available to me right now. And I haven't been able to accept this. Like, I want to engage intellectually with others, and my friends right now are able to offer me patience. They're able to offer me time. They're able to offer me a lot of time. They're able to offer me a shoulder to cry on, a bed to sleep, all sorts of things that are really, really important and I value. But I don't think I understand their true value, I don't think. And I don't think I will fully appreciate that until and unless I actually work towards seeing and recognizing that there's certain things that they cannot offer me. But it's less about appreciating what I have and more about seeing this space that I currently occupy as an opportunity. So, what I'm talking about is an opportunity. And what I mean by opportunity is that there are options available to you to apply yourself that perhaps it would be difficult to take full advantage of if you had someone else in your life. I think for women it's pretty clear. The male gaze has a very corrosive impact on your life, and the pursuit of people is really pushed on you when you're younger, especially in college. There are also opportunities to extend yourself socially. I've been told through research and people that college is the time in your life where you have access to the most sexual prospects, the most romantic prospects, and as third spaces vanish in society, college becomes even more important for those reasons. So I think that there is a way to use this opportunity in a unique way where you don't focus on other people, where you take your young body, your young mind, and the ways in which it's malleable and becoming more and more sort of open to new ways of living, and you take advantage of them and see where that takes you. So that's what I'm trying to say when I say opportunity. I think that, of course, true enlightenment should be able to come through regardless of the people you surround yourself with, because the alternative would be to be a hermit, to be selfish, and to say that you cannot grow because people around you are unkind or unhappy. But I think that when you are able to cultivate true bravery and humility and kindness and all these noble qualities that I personally value, I think that what it allows is for you to have a positive impact regardless of the influences in your life, that you are able to transcend those influences and are able to give to a lot of people perhaps and give to yourself. So I think that's important to consider. There is this Michelle Obama quote that I'm thinking about right now. And that quote is, if you don't decide who you are, the world will tell you. And I think that the cost that you pay for neglecting yourself is really high. That cost is paid for by a loss of identity, by a loss of integrity, and a loss of power in a way that is nothing like humility. I mean, maybe it is something like humility. I think you find yourself at the very lowest of the low in terms of the human experience. You find yourself very isolated, and you experience isolation when you have someone by your side. When you have these markers in your life that should indicate to you that you're happy, that you should be happy, you find yourself profoundly dissatisfied. You find yourself with the career of your dreams, like an illustrious academic career ahead of you, perhaps, and someone beautiful by your side who says they love you over and over. But you actually perhaps are spiritually ill at ease perpetually. And then you feel lost because you spent your entire life chasing certain things and you don't feel anything. The whole idea about learning to enjoy the journey is also important here. And I think that you can only learn to enjoy the journey when you sort of slow down and take stock of the weather that surrounds you, and you make do with the opportunities you have. One of the reasons I'm making this video is partly one of the reasons I guess I'm going to be posting this video and I'm talking still. It's like perhaps because my thoughts are very scattered. It's not a very organized video, and I hope that when I hear back what I have to say, it's coherent. I think it probably will be because I organize my mind in an interesting way, and I organize those interesting thoughts in a way that is organized. And even if I kind of meander, I usually get back to the point I was trying to make, and I usually answer the question that I was trying to ask. This approach isn't always helpful because sometimes the journey that you take away from trying to directly answer the question can be more fruitful. But that continual going back to the question, I think there's a tendency of like A-level subjects. Like a question's been asked of you and you have to constantly link back to that question. Everything comes back to the extent to which one or another factor can be blamed for the war. And that's sort of an approach I sometimes apply to how I think. So, opportunity. Another thing which stands out here is this Toni Morrison quote that I saw. And this is from this page called Rob's Lit Quotes, Robert Kaplan, the love child of Patricia Highsmith and Lydia Davis. And the quote basically goes as follows. This is a quote by Toni Morrison. And I can't find it. But she talks about being alone, and it's kind of what sparked this video. She talks about how sometimes you can be with someone else and it'll be like secondhand aloneness. And I thought about what that feels like because recently, a few months ago, I got to know someone well. Not well, but I got to know someone closer than I get to know most people. And as I got to know this person, I started feeling like their denial of their grief was really apparent, and it was starting to affect me because when you have rejected the demon inside your heart, as Adrian Lenker would say, then I think that you aren't always very accommodating of the alien inside other people's hearts. I think when you give yourself presence, when you give yourself profound treatment, I think that allows you to also give more to other people. I find myself sometimes operating from a lot of lack. I find myself thinking about pursuing others because I feel a lack. And I think that when I have presence, I'm able to give a lot more. When I feel that I'm hot shit, let's say, and that like there's promise to me and potential and all these great qualities, then I find that the love that I'm able to offer to other people is of high quality, and it's love that doesn't take that much from me. It's a lot more natural, and yeah, I think it's a lot more mutually nourishing. Otherwise, I think when I feel a lot of lack, when I am giving love to someone else, I feel that it's just like either that love is all I have to give, I'm giving someone everything I have, or I find myself being depleted. As I hear people talk about their problems sometimes, I feel really depleted, and this isn't the case with everybody. It's perhaps the people I care most about. When I hear them talk about their problems, sometimes I find myself just like feeling drained, and I'm trying to like remember that I have energy and that this has to be used. I liked what the wizard Liz said. I was watching the video with her boyfriend. She was talking about how, like, she sometimes, when she met this guy that she likes, she became afraid of her own ability to manifest. And I think manifestation is a powerful tool. I have always thought of it as like woo-wee, new age stuff, but I'm starting to think that like perhaps there's merit to like manifestation. I think that if you want something, you should dare to ask for it, and perhaps you will receive it. I think that if you don't ask for something, you don't receive it. I don't know. I mean, that's the theory about life in Islam, right? That like before existence, you had the choice to be like an animal or a human being or an object, and you decide what you were going to be. So if that is what happened. Then I decided to be a human being, and I want to honor the choice of my soul to appear in this form and to be an active being. And yeah, so there's not any more good, of course. And this whole video is about the self, so I should probably get back to talking about that. I think that today, as I was talking to my sister and giving her advice, and urging her to be kinder to herself, I saw in me someone who's very loving. I saw someone who is very curious, someone who's very interested in psychological analysis. And this is a part of myself that I think I haven't fully appreciated. I've known that I'm empathetic, emotionally intelligent, and socially inept in a number of ways. I know I'm tactful. I know that I often say the right things. But I think I'd neglected the intensity to which I also feel the right things, and how intellectually I am able to exert myself in reaching emotional realizations. I was just thinking about how, like, I have so much love to give, and sometimes, like, as I was talking to my sister, I kind of covered, like, my face, like, over here on the left. I was talking to her on the phone, and as I was doing that, I just saw a girl with, like, soft hair and, like, pretty nails, and I couldn't see my face. And I was just thinking, like, this girl's so intelligent. She's beautiful, but she's also she's beautiful and intelligent. And I think about these flowers that I bought for myself, and I think that there's so much love that I might have. I think there's this energy, and I think that it's very nourishing right now. Like, as I'm seeing my nails, I kind of want to put lotion on and feel a bit like a woman. And I think that this energy is worth taking all of it, harnessing it towards myself, and using my alone time to really cultivate myself in a way that I'd like. To take this opportunity to make something of myself. Because I think that when I was younger, what I'd find myself doing is that I felt this anxiety to, be loved and to give love to others. And I think that that proclivity towards wanting to give my love to another person, like, I think that everybody deserves love, but I think that they also deserve to put their energy in a place where it is valued. And sometimes you will give love to people, and it won't be like, maybe they won't reciprocate it, maybe they won't understand it or value it, or maybe they do but they can't articulate it, and all these things. So maybe, like, it's not going to be as simple as I give love to someone and then they're able to easily appreciate it. But I do think that doesn't make the love you gave them any less valuable. But I think that in, like, learning that your love is a resource and that it's, like, really important, you need to maybe start being a bit more selective with it. I really struggle with this idea because on one hand, I like Kierkegaard's idea of Kærlighed, like selfless Christian love, where you love those who are unworthy. And I think that sort of love should be prioritized over, what's it called? Erlosk, I think. The idea of erotic love, which I think of as sexual and emotional stimulation. And I think one of these is clearly better than the other. You should pursue Kierkegaard over pure engagement, in my mind. And I think that this dichotomy of love it's interesting. And I want to start by giving love to someone who I've maybe perhaps felt unworthy in the past, and that's myself. I think we always think of ourselves as sort of like unworthy candidates of love. Everybody deserves our love and our mercy, it seems, except ourselves. And that's how women see it, at least, that everybody's getting my love except me. The woman burns herself up in the process. And the common man, I think, does the opposite. He gives his love. He has love that he hones towards ambition so that he can prove to himself that he's worthy of love. So the love he's able to offer himself and to others is, like, very limited. And about these ideas of love, I've just been thinking, and I think that when I was younger, you know, maybe like there were all these like guys who like really weren't worthy. There were all these friends who weren't worthy, and it's not that they didn't deserve love. A lot of them were like very troubled, and I think I showed them what kindness looks like, and I think they valued that for a long time, and I'm glad that they were able to experience kindness. But I think that I also deserved kindness, and I think that I should have um, maybe I deserve kindness more. I never think about this. I always think we all deserve kindness, and why the hell do I deserve more kindness than others? But maybe that's because I'm me, and maybe that's why I deserve more kindness. I'm not sure. Maybe I should act in a manner that emphasizes that, but that seems self-serving. So I'm not sure how to like reach that balance. But I think about these like people. I think that that was a time. I don't regret this because I had my journey or whatever. But I also think that was time I could have maybe utilized if I could go back and if I were told to like live life better. Perhaps I would spend that time cultivating myself, reading more, and like not focusing on other people think. I didn't receive the sorts of connections I wanted then that I'm receiving now. The things I'm receiving now romantically seemed like a dream then, you know, and I didn't conceive how cool it would be to talk to someone about ideas. I could articulate that I want someone who listened to good music and was funny and good looking, but I didn't, I think, emphasize to myself like how important that is to me to have someone who I can really talk to, someone who's kind, and a bunch of other qualities. And as I get older, I'm meeting guys who are romantic, and I'm meeting guys who do talk about ideas, and the ones I've met so far have been limited in this or that category. But that doesn't mean that I won't find someone who um, meets all of my boxes and ticks them perfectly. That doesn't mean that I won't find someone who's as present as I am. And I think that it might be worth spending this time thinking of myself as a first-rate person. This doesn't mean that when you enter a relationship you think of yourself as a second-rate person, but I think that there are all these people in my life who I wish were perhaps more interesting, or the ones who are interesting, I wish they were kinder and smarter. And I think that all these like complaints I have sometimes about other people, it's not that I'm too demanding. I think that I just can identify what I need. I think I could focus on meeting those needs for myself and accepting people for who they are. If the people in my life can only offer me affection to this extent, I think I should just accept what they're willing to offer and not try to convert them into something that they're not. The friend I have who is self-absorbed and immature is also someone who is astonishes me with her generosity and her loneliness. And I laugh a lot with her. We spend a lot of time together, and sometimes talk about political events. But she's not really. She hasn't really developed her ideas, and she's not operating from some of the ways it is important to me that intellectual partners operate from. I I feel like I sound condescending, but yeah, I just think she's a little bit stupid and a little too nationalistic. I think that prevents us from talking properly. Wow, that's what I was trying to say, very clear. So yeah, that's this whole video on the self, on being alone, and I don't think that I want to settle for the company of other people, because when I transform these people, I don't see them clearly. I think it's lying to myself if I choose to ignore who people show me that they are. And like if I try to change this girl into my best friend, or change every person who engages me intellectually into like a Marie Curie kind of situation, it's not the best either. I think I want to cultivate myself and to spend time with myself. And there are aspects of university where I meet English people who are so provincial. They think colonialism is good. They don't understand Islam. They don't know anything about Pakistan, and they practice continually a lapse in manners, judgment, and grace. So if I feel that people in situations that are like that, then I want to focus energy on myself and extend myself fully, because I wonder if I'll always have this like all this free time. I wonder if I'll always have this like these like moments of change, you know. um I find it dwindling even now. Like I find like purpose, sustained purpose dwindling, and I find myself feeling like roused into action every now and then. But I find sustained purpose dwindling. When I was younger, it was a little bit sporadic like that. So I guess there are a number of ways in which I'm returning to the past. But perhaps I should take that as like a Jungian invitation. If I'm returning to into the past, maybe I should ask myself, why am I returning to the past? What is there in the past that I had that I am not finding in the present, and how could I meet that need? I'm finding myself kind of having this proclivity towards renunciation again. I'm finding myself being a bit lazy again, feeling a bit demoralized. I'm finding myself feeling like a little bit odd and out of place, like there might be something wrong with me. But I also have a lot of superpowers. Right now, I feel, I don't know, as I have started to talk to myself more and opened up a dialogue with myself, I felt better. I guess I've also just been encountering different mirrors. If interactions with other people provide mirrors for who you are, I think I've encountered some new mirrors perhaps. The boy I'm seeing told me I'm beautiful, and he seemed to initially see me as an intellectual equal, and he approached me with such reverence. In a time in my life when I felt like a lot of people weren't taking me seriously, then the other mirror sort of present themselves in the form of like sleazy old men and people in England, like men on the street who yell obscenities at me, or people who assume I'm some sort of religious threat. It's like a new way of looking at myself. I look at myself in the mirror, I don't see like, I don't see someone who's repressed. I don't see someone who's boring. I don't see someone who is a lot of these like things. And I think that when you accept treatment from others in accordance with something that they've identified and you they're punishing, you accept their judgment of you. And I don't want to accept the guy that I'm seeing's judgment that I'm, this or that or odd or whatever. Because I think if I am odd, then I don't want to change that because that is what I am. I think about like Patti Smith, I think about Alanis Morissette, I think of all these like interesting women who produced great art. And I think they were both a little bit weird. I think John Berger is probably a little bit weird. I think Susan Sontag and all these like great writers and artists, they're a little bit weird. And I think that they're able to like feel and experience things in a way that is so like good. Like they feel good. And when I say good, I don't mean perhaps always happiness that is derived from their skill or something like that. I mean beyond that like aesthetic, beyond that like stimulation, pleasure. I think they experience an ease with themselves, a feeling of like intimacy with themselves when they're alone in the kitchen. And I think that's beautiful. And I saw this video from this like lady who spoke at the Oxford Union, and she's like all about using men. And I'm not sure if I completely agree with her. I don't know how helpful it is to use other people. I don't know if it's good for your soul. It feels like probably not. But she has these ideas, and one of the questions she poses to the viewer and to the listener of her podcast, an imagined listener, is to consider maybe like what is the role of attraction in my life and what behavior do I accept from men. And I thought about the fact that if I continue to accept bad behavior from men, I'm allowing some dubious features like lust, attachment, and stimulation be what guide me. And I don't know if I want to live a life that's guided by these impulses. I mean, as human beings, we're told, right? Like, you need company, you need sex, you need this, you need that. And I think in Western society, like, the pursuit of these base pleasures is prioritized to like the highest degree, you know? And somehow people are still dissatisfied. So I think that in trying to like address these needs of the flesh, we perhaps neglect the needs of the soul. And I think if your soul is what decided you're going to live here, and your soul is that thing which resides inside of you, then I think you should be authentic and you should be yourself and say how you feel. I think I have smart things to say, but also beyond smart things, I think I'm just a sensible person. And regardless of whether or not people can identify that, I continue to be a sensible person. You know, a rose would by any other name still smell sweet. And sometimes I get worried. Like, you know, sometimes I think a lot of unattractive people think they're attractive. A lot of people who are really overweight wear really short clothes. And I guess that's the fear that, you know, I will be, like, I will mess up or I will be found out, perhaps, if that's what I'm trying to say. This feeling of perhaps I will, you know, not even know it and be doing stupid things. But I think maybe it's good sometimes to not be aware and to like just feel and break free. Not that I'm saying I don't feel, but I do think that when I like, I mean, that's the fear that a lot of guys try to instill in me. But I think when we like move away from these impulses, we like when we move away from the impulses of your inner child and yourself, like Jung suggests that you meet those needs neurotically. And I wonder what I'm like. I wonder what I'm like because I suspect that I'm wonderful. When I imagine myself talking, I think that she's like really smart. And when other people are looking at me, and I imagine them looking at me and I imagine what they're seeing. And I imagine this from the outside in. I think, wow, that girl with this hair and this like sweater, let's say, she is full of like, you know, not full of shit, but she's full of like ideas. She's full of like a lot of music and a lot of literature. And I feel that I would like to get to know her better. And I'd like to know what she's like. And I'd like to know her better, not for the purpose of predicting her behavior precisely, but because I feel like I'm only just getting to know her. I want to have a good relationship with her and I want to take care of her. And I want to trust her experience over anyone else's. So yeah. I want to spend more time alone. And I want to know who I am when nobody's looking.